Welcome to Minneapolis Edison High School as we present a special Martin Luther King edition of high school basketball. Today, the Minneapolis Edison Tommies host the Trinity River Ridge Tri-Hawks as Edison and Trinity look to get a little momentum as we start the second half of the season. Greetings, everyone. I'm Mike Peden, joined by Tamara Moore once again. And Tamara, basketball and Martin Luther King Day seem to go synonymous in this area. What makes such a strong connection between the two?
I think it's just the determination of the girls. I think it's the actual competitiveness of what Martin Luther King was stood for, and it was all about unity, and it was all about the classicness of what he stood for. And I think that's what you're going to see here today is two teams that are going to be fighting for that one ultimate goal, and that is a dream to go to the state tournament.
In fact, 3 schools hosting all-day events. Edison hopefully will get there in a few years' time, but Edison, their record may not indicate it, 4-9, and they've struggled a little bit, but the biggest thing they have going for them, the kids on that roster are believing in Maya Johnson's philosophy in her first season.
Definitely, and I think right now they have a really young team. They have 4 8th graders on their team, 3 that are actual contributors to this program, but Maya has them believing in her system and then believing in what she brings to the table as a coach. Sometimes a good coach can make a team that might not be very good better than they are.
And don't forget, this is just one of many goals. We'll talk more about that later in this game. And for Trinity, 7-9, and similar situation as Edison, but interestingly, they don't have anyone averaging double digits in scoring, but I spoke with Patrick Buchanan before the game. They prefer to emphasize defense. So with the offense that doesn't produce a lot of points, what should we expect, and how will they keep Edison from perhaps running up the score?
I definitely think from looking at their schedule, they're not just not playing anybody. I mean, they had an opportunity to play against Maranatha, who's a very, very good team. So we're not going to just look at the fact that they might be more of a unified team, that they have more people that are contributing compared to just being a situation where they might not have that top 17-point scorer. But they're going to be a team that's going to come out and play hard.
And keep in mind, youth will be prevalent throughout this game, both teams featuring very young rosters. So that's going to make for a lot of learning experiences, learning curves, so to speak.
Definitely, especially with a lot of youth on the court today. I think we're going to see a very up and down game, but you might see a little bit of mistakes, but hey, they're going to get out there and play hard.
You may be one of the eldest people in attendance today.
Probably, but I was also one of the best.
We'll talk more about that later too, but Edison and Trinity are coming up next. Welcome back to Minneapolis Edison, and this may be the quietest you hear my voice throughout this season. It's a small crowd today, but again, this is the first step of many for Maya Johnson, and in fact, the microphone is out, so that's Brett McNeil. We mentioned him on 2 days ago, I believe, the former Minneapolis North standout, the athletic director here, and that actually played a part in Maya Johnson getting the head coaching job here.
Definitely, and I think there's a connection between the fact that not only is the athletic director from Minneapolis Park, but her assistant coaches are also from Minneapolis. Her sister Brittany Johnson is one of her assistant coaches, as well as she has Andre Gray, who is also a part of the boys basketball team that won a state championship.
I had a chance to introduce myself to those guys back in November. Let's take a look at the starters, though. Trinity will start Liz Olson, number 1. She's a sophomore guard. Number 11, Grace Ennis. She's a sophomore guard. Number 15, Anna Friends, freshman guard. Number 32, Anna Mashad, freshman forward. And number 33, Mary Ann is senior forward. But Trinity playing without both of the Brilski sisters and both captains. So that's going to be a little interesting. Minneapolis Edison will start Jada Lewis. She's a sophomore guard. Number 0. Number 2, Shanice Vaughn, freshman guard. Number 15, Sierra Morrow, 8th grade center. Number 20, Tiffany McNeil, 8th grade forward. And 25, Elisa Weber, sophomore forward. And Edison, 4 8th graders on this roster, and one of them, Andrea Gray, normally plays, but still dealing with the effects of a concussion. So 2 teams that are very young. Only one senior actually combined in both rosters.
Exactly, and I think that's what I was saying. It's going to make for an interesting matchup with a lot of youth on the floor. We might see a lot of turnovers today, but I think it's going to be a good matchup of whoever can limit their turnovers and execute the best.
Yeah, it probably will not be as crisp as North Maranatha was a couple of days ago, but as we've seen hopefully with Edison and even in Minneapolis North, turnarounds in the era of instant gratification, if you're not winning right away, folks are wondering what's wrong with you. Sometimes you need a little patience and get that camaraderie going. We've seen that with Minneapolis North. They were about a 500 team through most of the season last year. Now they're running the table in Class A.
Definitely, and I think right now what Maya wants to instill in her disciplined part of the game and also the energy part of the game that you'll notice with her, with her bench. Whenever they're on defense, she has a bench involved. She has everybody involved, and I think it's from top to bottom, from coaches all the way down to the managers.
Trinity wearing white, Minneapolis, Edison wearing their familiar blue jerseys. Part of a long line of Martin Luther King games taking place, and hopefully this will. Oh, are we gonna have a do-over? No. Well, we're off to an interesting start here. And the first basket is going to go to Anna Mashad. She gets the Plinko bounce. And let's see if we can get those stats over here. You're trying to... Getting the steal is Mary Ennis. As we noted, Trinity known for more of their arts and academics, so we just noted it now. That three-pointer's off the mark, and Mary Ennis with the offensive rebound. Liz Olson short on the baseline J, and Sierra Morrow, the eighth grader. Morrow, yes, she's young. Well, most of this team is, but we have Jada Lewis going in. And Olsen for three. That's short, and the rebound by Weber. Maya Johnson calls Elisa Morrow her blue-collar figure. And remember, they're eighth graders, starting young. But I spoke to Maya, actually, about returning to her old stomping grounds, and she was a little taken aback by it because of course, when she played, she was under the leadership of Faith Johnson Patterson, and the team now has a much different flavor to it. And some of those flavors surprised her a bit. Two-2 our score early in the first half, and both teams offensively have been challenged. We don't see too many high scores. In fact, Edison, their highest point total this season is 55, and part of that is, they're still learning how to play. See. And Sierra Morrow is off to a fast start here. She's getting the layup and she's up to 4 points. And that's the one thing, it's a cliche, as the shot was blocked and picked up by Shanice Vaughn. It's a cliche, but the best part about having such a young team, they all get a year older. That's a traveling violation on Lewis. Jada Lewis, a state champion in track. Actually, she and her older sister won the team title by themselves.
Yes, definitely. Never spoke about them before. They were not going to come out for the team this year because of the fact that they wanted to focus on track. And really convinced them that they would be an asset to this program. And
we have a timeout with Trinity, 15:39 left, so let's talk a little bit more about Jada Lewis. I was here for their first game of the season. I did a story on the other show that I'm involved in, on Maya's return, and Jada had a rough go at it and got frustrated, and I imagine you've been through this, and just got really upset and almost stormed off the floor and then lost to Henry. That was the game where Daria Lipscomb had 30 points, 33 rebounds. But Maya had to go retrieve her. They sorted it out, though, and her attitude much improved. She had to address the team after that. Nothing serious happened. It just... Edison has gone through a coaching carousel after Charlita Williamson left a few years ago for Tartan. And so when you have so many switches, so many changes, sometimes, as Maya mentioned to me yesterday, you have to win their trust. And wow, this is my inside voice.
resurgence of this Edison program. I think, like you said before, with Trinity, I think the biggest thing for me is think about an athlete that's passionate about a sport. Like, a lot of these girls don't have that passion for something, and they're still in them. Passion, no matter what. I think that's the thing that she wants to instill, that she has some girls that really are trying to develop that next step of being good.
Maya has told me she has never had so many changes with her short-term goals as she has had this season. And to finish up that story on Lewis, well, we have Tiffany McNeil on a fast break, and one. Tiffany McNeil actually playing for the AAU coach that led Maya Johnson when she was a child, if you want to go back. McNeil is considered the natural scorer. Maya will often go to her for that. And because of her age, she noted, as McNeil gets her own miss, loses the ball, she noted she's letting her play a little bit more, trying to get some more structure, though, as the season goes on. But she's understanding that these are 8th graders. They're still developing. And even stalwarts like Taylor Hill and Rebecca Dahlman, when they started off young, it took them a while to develop their game. No three-pointer from Mary Ennis. Gets her own miss, can't put it in. And the rebound ripped away by Mashad. Again, Trinity playing with a thin roster. Third time doesn't go in. And Shanice Vaughn has it, but loses control. Go ahead. And Elisa Weber making a couple of big plays here, getting the layup and then getting the steal on the other end. It will stay with the Tommies. And we have our first sub. It's number 35 for the Tri-Hawks, and this is Ayanna Anderson. And this is where I turn really silent because, again, small crowd. The players might hear my voice if I spoke a little too loudly. I feel like I'm in a library. Jada Lewis missing the three-pointer, and that's going to be an over-the-back foul on McNeil. Uh-oh. Jada Lewis, she took an awkward fall, and so Maya's going to take a look at her and actually to finish up that story on Lewis. We don't see that often. No, we don't. It didn't look right. Well, we didn't really have a chance to see how serious it was, but Jada Lewis, I was going to say she's more confident in herself, and once she got through that initial struggle, now she's embraced this team. Yes, and she's moved up to a starter's role. Hey, my alma mater won a lot of state championships in badminton. St. Paul Harding won a bunch of. Well, there's about 6 or 7 of those banners. Ayanna Anderson draws the foul. She'll shoot a pair. Let's take a look at Anderson. She averages 3.9 points per game, and as we noted, no double-digit scores on this Trinity team. Offense has been hard to come by for this group. Their highest total this season was 65, but that was over an overmatched Crystal Way Jesuit team. They also got 77 over Hope Academy, but the thing with Trinity is it's the feast or famine. It's a cliche, but that describes their season. They either are in the front end of blowouts or the back end. And is your mic?
Technical difficulties. No microphone for me.
So all that stuff you heard from Tamara, well, we'll
have to talk about it again.
Well, we're going to have to fill in those words, I think, in the open.
Definitely.
So we apologize for that. I think we can hear your voice now.
Yes. And I think it was on for the opening, though. I think I might have turned it off right after our opening, but now I'm back.
Well, that's all right. You had nothing useful to say. It was all hot air.
Definitely.
Anderson was blocked by Sierra Morrow.
She does a great job with her body, being able to get in there and use it. And like I said, she's in 8th grade. With her positioning, with a little bit of work over the summer, she's going to have a great opportunity to be a good player.
And it's going to be interesting to see what she does. That's a great sentence, getting the runner. I don't know how it went in, but it did.
They've been definitely deadlocked at that 8-2, so they're actually got an opportunity to get a good basket there with that they really, really need it.
And I did confirm your microphone is indeed on. McNeil going for the runner, losing control, and is picked up by Anna Friends.
Yes. But I love what Tiffany is doing. Tiffany McNeil's doing. She's attacking the basket. She's getting to the rim like she normally does. She's a really, really good attack to the basket type of player. But she will knock down some three-pointers as well if you leave her open.
McNeil runs into a wall and travels. But we were discussing this, and I don't know what you heard from Tamara, but Maya, her goal, one of her short-term goals was to create the sense of a role model. The very thing she had at Minneapolis North. She still speaks highly of Faith Johnson-Patterson, double dribble on Trinity, and in fact the two often hold conversations with each other. Faith was thrilled when she found one of her proteges was getting a head coaching assignment, and those two have been going back and forth with Faith offering her insight that Maya has used, and in that first game I saw shades of her former mentor.
Definitely, and one interesting thing, I think the interesting thing is Andre Gray's daughter is actually in Faith Johnson-Patterson's AAU program, so she actually suggested Andre Gray for this role to help out Maya over here at Minneapolis Edison, and it turned out to be a great move on their part.
And I had a chance to meet the two of them, and they were very passionate. They knew it was going to be a process, so they were prepared for the idea or the concept, the notion that they may not win a lot of games, but they're looking at building a program down the road. Things get real scrappy here.
Definitely. Maya Johnson's on the call for the jump ball. They're trying to refer to it and saying that it's Tommy ball, when in actuality the Trinity team actually got the jump ball. So it's a call situation right here, but we might end up having it where Edison gets the ball
it's
anyways.
A jump ball, but Edison had the arrow.
Exactly. You hear their coach now saying how he feels like his team is playing out of their element. He wants them to slow down, be a little bit more patient, and be able to get better shots.
Well, speaking of that team, I see that the Brilskis have arrived.
They have arrived.
Maddie and Marcy. McNeil.
Strong drive to the baseline by McNeil. Like I said before, she's really, really good at penetrating and attacking to the basket. Great pressure on the ball right here by Edison. Almost forced a turnover, but they have to be ready for that type of stuff.
I wonder if the Brilskis, and sometimes this happens if they got lost in the way here, because this is officially a day off for most of these schools, so there was no school bus, no primary rendezvous point.
Definitely.
And Elisa Weber, how about her game? The charge, not a stat stuffer thus far, but she has a block, she has a charge, she's got a layup. Weber's proving herself here.
Yeah, I definitely think Weber. I got to see her against Minneapolis North. One of the games I got to actually attend. She wasn't in the Minneapolis Southwest game that they played earlier that I watched, but she actually fouled out with about 13 minutes left in the second half. But I think with her, she's that type of player that's going to work hard, grind, but she has to be able to understand that she has to not get in foul trouble, and she did a great job of taking a charge right there.
Daylene Stave is going in, and she was somebody who I spoke to in my feature piece.
Yes. Yeah, Daylene is actually in my Lady Hoopers program as well that I run. She trains with me in the summertime. Daylene is the type of player that really wants to get herself in better conditioning shape, knowing that it's her junior year. But I think Daylene brings a real strong, tough body on the inside, and she can actually knock down a couple three-pointers. I'm
just curious how much you know about me and my exploits.
I know you, buddy.
I'm just wondering how many of my stories and articles you read or watch, and now I'm a little curious here. You seem to know every little story I put out there.
Yeah, but at the same token, I deal with these kids on a daily basis as far as my actual program that I run in the summer called the Lady Hoopers Academy. And I actually have a lot of the girls from the Minneapolis Edison program, the Minneapolis North program. You know, they all come and I actually train them. So a lot of the storylines that you get are storylines that I've already seen. Like we have Nia Putnam coming in right now off the bench for Edison. She's another one that has joined my program. So, and also being able to see your features on Channel 45 have been a great thing for me, especially for girls that might not have that exposure before.
So here's my question. Why aren't you forwarding these ideas over to me?
My bad, buddy. You know what I'm saying? This is our what? Second telecast since what, 5 years? But it's been a great experience over the last couple of days.
Second telecast and one working microphone for the first 6 minutes.
Yes.
We'll have to go back, and I don't know. We'll go back and retrace some of those steps when we get to halftime because there's a lot of stories I want to share. And
definitely.
Edison is up 10-4 here with the little.
Because you think about it, we only had one microphone for the Minneapolis North Maranatha
At least
game,
that one worked.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, I mean, it was so weird to both have a microphone right now.
At least that one microphone was working.
Definitely.
Except for the time where you got up out of your chair, got up out of your seat in the bleachers in the North game. That was that was almost a backcourt violation. But that was hilarious.
That was definitely. I sometimes turn into a fan.
You still get involved. Well, you still get in those North games, and we're gonna have free throws coming for Sierra Morrow.
Definitely. I think like most people say, once a Polar, always a Polar. And I think just being in an environment again and being back at your alma mater and seeing the resurgence of that school has been a great experience. And sometimes, even with this game right now, I want to kind of become a fan again because I'm cheering for Maya, cheering for the Edison girls, and just wanting to see the inner city be back to its prominence.
Morrow up to 5 points, averaging just 4.9 a game, but again, more of that blue-collar player. Even so, we mentioned Maya, calling her the blue-collar player, has a knack for rebounding and working on getting her to become more vocal. Sierra's a very quiet persona for the Tommies, and we have a timeout, so 8:51 left. And well, now that you have a working microphone, we can discuss a little more about this. Maya, actually, when I talked to her yesterday, noted that you two had a lot of contact with each other, even though you two never met in high school.
Never met in high school.
Never had a class together. You graduated 6 years before she did,
yes.
So the two of you never taking a class together, but developing a very close bond. So I guess how did that start, and what do you see with Maya coming back here and trying to create another beacon of leadership here in Minneapolis?
I definitely think, well, it started, like I said before, with the Jerry Gamble's Boys and Girls Club. We all came out of that program. So obviously it was a situation where being at Minneapolis North, we actually still were able to go back to our, those stomping grounds. And we all played for an AAU program called the Lady Hawks. So that was the other big issue. The interesting thing is that we all kind of came out of the same feeder program that kind of is like a feeder program like a North Tartan or something to that effect. So I think for me, just knowing her for so long and then being so involved with her, she was more like a little sister compared to it being a situation where it was about being from Minneapolis North.
So what did you think when she got 2 state titles and
how many state titles?
She won 2.
She actually won 3. She won a 3-peat. She won a 2000. She won 3 state championships.
They didn't win in 02 though.
No, they did.
Oh, you're talking.
Maya Johnson won 3 state championships.
She was talking 99.
No, I'm talking about Maya.
She won in 03 and 04.
She won 3 state championships. She went to state 5 times.
She went to state because I know the 3 in a row was from 03 through 05. Maya wasn't there.
03,
for the last
04,
year.
05.
Maya wasn't there for the last year. She was at St. Louis.
Yes, that is you're right. You are right.
I know what I'm talking about most of the time.
Yes, you are right. So I'm trying to think who actually won 3 in a row then.
Well, I know on the 03 team it was Larea Starr, whose younger sister is a little closer to home.
You mean older sister of Elena Starr?
Yes.
Yes.
Larea Starr, that's her younger sister. Like
whose younger sister?
Larea Starr's younger sister.
Is Elena Starr, yes.
Right. A little closer to home.
Correct.
Can't quite reveal where yet, but let's just say if you're a basketball guy, you know where she's going.
Trust me, you'll be excited for the change.
We have our sources.
Yes. Yes, and I think that's a great thing is that just in general, just the fact that if somebody like Maya, who has experienced the state tournament 5 times, all tournament team 5 times, most people don't know, she kind of had a derailment when she tore her ACL going into her senior season, which she would have ended up, breaking my scoring record, and which I thought should have been a situation where she should have had that opportunity. And I think for her, being able to share those experiences with the girls that she's coaching right now is a great tool to be able to use in the future.
Hard to do that with just one knee.
Definitely, and it was a situation where no matter what, she still was successful. She still was a leader of her team, and she was able to lead them to a real strong, successful program and continue that tradition that was there before she came.
Timeout, Edison. Maddie Brilski getting her first basket for the Trinity Tri-Hawks. As we mentioned, the Brilskis were missing from the starting lineup, or at the tip. This is quite the awakening. You don't have any time to prep, so it's a very difficult situation to come into. They're still working on Jada Lewis.
I think there was an ankle injury. It looks like they're taping up her ankle to make sure she has enough support to be able to get back out there. I think her biggest thing is knowing that how fast she is. Sometimes she might be running out of her shoes a little bit.
And that's tough to see again for a player, as we talked about, who overcame those initial difficulties and has really embraced this team. And you mentioned the retreat that Edison took. It was over the weekend,
yes,
and concluded actually with that Gophers game that I was attending.
Exactly, and they actually celebrated. Yeah, actually celebrated one of the players' birthday, number 2.
They had a frosting fight over it.
Yes, and it was a great experience
Maya showed
because
me some pictures.
That creates a lot of camaraderie between the team, and it was actually a situation where they got to go and actually physically see a college offense and see a college game, which is a positive thing.
Foul on number 33, Nina Putman. Did you have any of those team-building exercises your days at North?
Yes, we did a lot of different things. We actually did one where we went to a bowling event with some, what's the word I wanted to use? Some special needs students when we actually went bowling with them in Chanhassen. We did a lot of different things. We also gave back. We used to go to a lot of different elementary schools, so it was always a great thing. And in my generation, we always kind of spent time going bowling, going to the movies, having, sleepover, slumber parties. So it was always a great experience that made us close and made us winners.
Stave is blocked by Mashad. Trinity loses the ball. 6:34 left, and 11-6 is our score.
It's a low-scoring game right now.
I was going to say, this is, well, and going in, seeing where the two teams are at and just where they're at in development, I'm not surprised that we're having more of a football-style score in this.
Definitely. I think what I do think, I think Edison's getting a little bit more going to the basket, and they're having a little bit more success. Right now, Tiffany McNeil, she's about to check in now, but she sat on the bench for a while. Good basket right there. Good fast break layup.
Going coast to coast. And heads up play at the baseline, but Trinity can't get there in time. 11-8 now.
Yes, good hustle right there by Trinity. Really trying to force the issue by pressing the ball and making them have to make decisions. Let's see what Tiffany McNeil can do right here once she's entering the game.
And we mentioned Trinity, its reputation for arts and academics. The team, that's a foul on Liz Olson. The team GPA is 4.15. Now, keep in mind that probably includes boosts from the advanced placement courses, or IB, which allows you to get extra points into your GPA. But to be above a 4.0, that's impressive.
Definitely. And
I never got above a 4.0. I was in National Honor Society, but never got above 4.0.
I think what that shows is the dedication that these girls that they have in the classroom. They're really showing that they are student athletes.
And virtually every student who enrolls at Trinity, it's a smaller school, they take part in some type of arts program.
Oh, I think that's a great thing for them to really be involved. I think the sports is a secondary situation for their school. There's some schools that really focus on the athletic piece, but I love the fact that they're showing that they are really involved in the student part of it as well.
Athletic director and head coach Patrick Buchanan said that Trinity team, a very self-motivated group. They have about a 3-hour workload every night, but they embrace it without fuss. Weber.
Great offensive rebound. She steps in from the out of bounds, and she gets that good position on the backside and was able to get a basket.
Weber showing a little flair here. 4 points for the sophomore. Entry pass. Stave commits the foul, and that will send us to the line.
Yep. I think one thing about Daylene is a situation where she just one step a little bit too slow. But I think right there, she would have reacted a little bit faster. She would have had a nice block on the backside.
Grace Ennis, the team leader in scoring, at 9.2, and Patrick Buchanan calls her the engine of the Trinity team.
we always get so quiet on free throws. I mean, like we said before.
Look at how many people are here.
Hey, but it's a great. But this is, I feel for me, this is a great opportunity for girls that might not have this opportunity for them to have a telecast like this. So before we even move further, I want to say thank you to you for even taking this opportunity and giving these girls something they might not have had.
Well, and I've covered Trinity before, and then of course Maya and I, as you may have guessed, we do go back a few years.
Yes.
We've known each other for a while, and I've been following. I've been following that steal from the baseline off of Trinity.
Yes, that pressure is going to be.
And that jumper is off the mark from 15 and a friends. I guess one thing with the score as low as this is, neither team is out of it.
Attacking to the basket right here again with Tiffany McNeil. She has to be in a situation where she has to be able to use her stop and go button, where she understands when she sees that defense, a little hesitation, be able to stop the defense from being there. But sometimes she kind of goes and tries to split right through them. Sometimes it's a 50-50 where it's either a block or a charge, and right there she got the block.
Bonus time now. 1-and-1 scenario. McNeil bricks it, but Stave is there for the O-board and travels. And Stave is the oldest player on this Edison team as a junior, but Maya noted since late December she's been committing herself to increasing her agility, dropping weight, and she was one of those players who I spoke with, and she said if Maya could achieve the accolades she did in high school, these players feel they can do the same.
Exactly.
And there's a baseline J from Anna Mashad. It's 13-10, and Maya, I think the only thing she didn't get was Miss Basketball. Leslie Knight won it that year, but hard to dispute what Maya was able to do. And then you mentioned the ACL tear. Well, I'm going to mention the steal first by Grace Ennis. She's got an open lane. She'll back off. Baseline pass. And Anna Friends with a lob that was reminiscent of Russell Wilson's two-point Hail Mary.
All right, and then we got a one-point game here right now, Mike. And I think right now that pressure that Trinity is putting on the ball is really helping them to transition into offense on the other end.
13-12 with 4:40 left in the first half.
You can see the fans in the crowd getting a little bit more involved in the game as well, which could be a make or break for the actual game.
Alisa Weber, I think she should play Plinko.
Definitely.
After that layup.
It was like, it made me basically touch every part of the rim.
You're right. That's what I said.
Bad foul.
And that's going to send Trinity to the bonus. We're going to see Marcy Brilski, number 23, take the floor.
We have Sierra Morrow that just checked back into the game, where she has fresh legs to see what she can do on that transition run.
Jada Lewis is back to the bench for those who are keeping track. And free throws at a premium, aren't they?
Definitely. I definitely think so. Let's see what she can do here. That's definitely a good attack, but she has to be able to read that defense.
Well, she's reading it well, and that hard effort pays off, and she goes to the free throw line, followed her own block.
Definitely. And I think she right there had an opportunity where she could have gave up on that play, but she didn't. She continued to play. She got the ball in her hands.
Maya would be on their case if they gave up right away.
Definitely. I've seen Maya be able to pull some of the players to the side. And sometimes the way we as people that are passionate about the sport, sometimes it might come off as a little harsh, but she has nothing but love in her heart for these girls, and she wants the best for them, and she never wants them to give up on themselves.
Tiffany McNeil making both free throws, and what was a 1-point lead is back to 5, and we see Jada Lewis return to the floor.
Yes, and you can see that heavily taped right ankle that she has right there, so we do know it was an ankle injury, but we'll see what happens with her right here, but see how quick she can be in getting a recover. Maybe
a tweak or a cramp or something, but did you ever have any... Did you ever go through that? I know, well, you went through a hamstring injury that impacted your professional career, but at these earlier levels, how did you handle maybe injuries or getting banged up?
I was fortunate enough
with the jumper. Go ahead.
Great shot on the baseline right there. I was fortunate enough to not have any major injuries through high school, through college, and a majority of my professional career until around 2009, which was probably my 8th season playing professionally. So I was fortunate, but at the same token, I think I didn't really, at some points in my career, didn't take care of my body the way I should have, and it affected me eventually.
And now you're stuck here calling a game with me.
Hey, but what I can say
Look where that got you. No.
Is that, hey, it got me an opportunity to learn it and pick up a new trade, and I'm actually enjoying it, and hopefully we can do it more in the future.
Well, I would ask to do that for the Flame, but you're going to be busy in another capacity for that team. We'll talk more about that later. Bullseye!
Hey, great three-pointer. Tie game right here, Mike.
17 all and a friends.
3 minutes left. A little bit over 3 minutes left in this first half. Let's see who can take this lead going into halftime.
Vaughn, no. Morrow can't get the follow-through, and Vaughn can't get the rebound in time. And Maya Johnson a little disgusted with that sequence.
I think, well, you got to be proud of the fact that they got a couple of different opportunities at the ball, because some kids just give up and they don't even go for the rebounds. So they're getting a lot of offensive opportunities with the offensive rebounds, but they just got to finish now.
Less than 3 to play. Tie score.
We got to see a little bit. I would love to see a little bit more activeness by Sierra Mara inside the paint, especially with them playing that 3-2 zone. She really could clog it up, but they have a lot of cutters that are attacking. It's a motion offense, and they have to be able to stop those cutters. Great block.
Morrow getting the weak side block. Grace Ennis has to kick out, but now she's open for 3, and that's strong. Maya Johnson was not kidding when she said Sierra was her blue-collar worker.
Definitely. She's actually averaging a one block per game, and I've actually seen her have at least 6 or 7 in a couple of different games. She has a good knack for being able to read that shot, but sometimes she gets so anxious that sometimes she gets fouls.
And again, as 8th graders, and I think everyone goes through it, we mentioned Taylor Hill and Rebecca Dahlman. They were 2 of the state's top scorers.
Definitely.
Couple of players closer to home. Well, Lena Starr, who started her varsity career in 8th grade at North, Shauna Johnson. They were understudies of a team led by Brianna Edwards, and they won 3 titles over at De La Salle.
Yep. And I think what we've talked about in the past and actually talked about is seeing these players, play from 7th and 8th grade to see if they can play that longevity of a season and be able to transition into college. We talked about that with a lot of people not realizing 3,000 or 4,000 points in high school now seems like a lot, but if that doesn't transition into the college game, was with like somebody like Tyshana Johnson, which is a biological cousin of mine, she's actually transitioning that into, points and rebounds in college.
Baseline drive.
First lead right there for Trinity. Timeout, Maya Johnson.
Marcy Brilski saw an open lane, and Edison was completely stumped.
Hey, the Brewski sisters are really coming. They got here just in time.
Brilski's, it must be what making that Bill Murray-like entrance if you go back to Space Jam. Marcy Brilski with that basket, averaging 6.2 a game. Maybe that was their role. You come in and come in the middle of the game and
be ready to go.
Pretty much. 140 left in the first half, and Trinity was their first lead, as you mentioned, 19-17. And this will be an opportunity to see how Edison responds, because again, they've played well, and even that first game with Henry, they made a charge in the second half and then lost their ground a bit. But again, you ran into Daria Lipscomb, who probably had the game of her varsity career. When I looked at the box score, I did a double take. I have not seen somebody get 33 rebounds in a game.
Maybe not 33, but maybe 31. Kevin Love did it. 31 and 31.
Professionally, though.
Definitely. Well,
and the scoreboard is out. So let's see. We've got to get this back up.
There we go.
Somebody turned off the lights.
Yes. Hey, at least we aren't Minneapolis North where
I was going to say,
losing lights.
This has been a theme. Lights are going off
all over the place. Well, we need to start shooting lights out in here.
You did well. You and your comrades did plenty of that in Faith Johnson Patterson's time.
And that was a really, really interesting
5 state
experience.
titles in about a 7-year span.
Yes. I mean, and if you think about it, from 1997 to about 2006, we were a fixture at the state tournament, only not making the championship game one season. So it was a great experience, but it was also a situation where even having those high scores, we had girls that might not have played a lot getting a chance to play and getting that experience to keep that tradition going.
Over the back foul called on Anna Mashad, so that's going to send Sierra Morrow to the line. She has 5.
I think these are going to be really, really crucial free throws going into the halftime. If they can get these 2 and then get a good stop and be able to take the lead going into halftime, it'll be a great thing.
We've been talking a lot about her. And front end is empty. We're still in the 1-and-1 range.
I think the one thing that I really like about Trinity's coach is that he's really running his players in and out, really keeping them fresh, really keeping them able to attack. He's not, overusing them, and I think that's what's really helped them to come back.
It helps when you get two of your top players back in the middle of the game.
Definitely. I really definitely believe that. And like I said before, shot here, rebound on the backside.
Jada Lewis, that was a little low on the arc, and still working on that, but Lewis is getting more confidence to shoot when she's open. And Morrow with another rebound. Edison with 30 seconds. They find Weber open. Weber, she would be a bona fide Plinko player.
Correct. I think she needs to go on. What's that show?
Price is Right.
Yeah, The Price is Right.
You didn't know about Price is Right?
Of course. I just remember the name. But I'm
thinking. You didn't watch it when you were in school?
Of course I did. But the thing Hogan, I think she would be always hitting the middle one every time. She would get $1 million every time.
Well, it's 10,000 for the daytime version, but she'd make some money.
I definitely think I think the thing that would be on her would be whether or not she would guess right to get those Plinko chips.
That's right. Well, first you have to get yourself on stage.
Correct.
Our first half is about to end here. We're tied at 19. Trinity's going to hold for the final shot, and are they going to get it off in time? No, that three-pointer would not have counted.
They had good ball movement, but just didn't shoot in time.
Maybe too good ball movement. You got to recognize the clock. So 19-19, and you know what? We're gonna. Normally I take a break, but we'll talk for these next few minutes because
you have to catch back up with the microphone
your microphone
situation.
Was off, yes, and there were some key elements we wanted to discuss, and the big thing was with Edison, the notion of these role models, and not something they had. They had about 4 different coaches in the last 5 years, and when I spoke with Maya Johnson yesterday.
A lot of these girls are just longing for positive role models, and so it's interesting to see that that has kind of left the city, and we long to get it back.
Well, last year it was more like we came together and they thought everybody knew how to play basketball, and we really didn't learn a lot of the fundamentals. But like this year we come together and we're more like a family, and like they're teaching us and they want us to be successful.
We would lose a lot, so like people wouldn't stop believing in ourselves. But like now that Maya's our coach, like everybody has a positive attitude.
A lot of times that's the hardest part, having your kids buy in. And I really haven't had a problem.
She makes sure that we're on top of everything, and not just basketball-wise, but school-wise also.
We came in and she was like, if you guys have any problems, well, you guys need to squash it because we're a family and you're going to be around each other for an entire season. So we all want to play as a team and work together as one.
There's a lot of different aspects a head coach has to face and deal with versus being that assistant. So I would probably say just more so taking lead, being the head person in charge.
She explains it well, and like she gives us the type of direction and stuff we need like that. And like she does it in like a positive way. Like she cares about us all.
And they want to teach us and like build up our confidence, and they're teaching us how to be like more productive young ladies. And they're not just teaching us basketball, but they're teaching us life lesson skills as well.
At the end of the day, as long as they can transition into the real world and be able to take what they've learned from basketball and apply that to whatever it is that they decide to do once they have to put the ball down, I'm in good shape.
It's kind of hard when you get a new coach, you got to make a new connection with them. But then like when Maya came, it was just like, it was easy to make a good connection with her because like she been where we were at before.
We're gonna live in the moment and not live in the past and not hold in so much stuff. Even though we might lose a game, we'll come back and we'll play even harder than we did the last time.
It's been really fun. I mean, honestly, I have a great group of girls. I think, again, they were just longing for, that positive role model, somebody to get in here, really set those standards, those expectations. For me, I came out of the gates, I let them know my coaching philosophy, things that I expect, things that I want to be able to do here, and what we want to do in regards to turning this program around, and they've totally bought in.
And some of the adversity that we mentioned, or that Maya mentioned to me, we mentioned positive role models is something that they've lacked. Sometimes they don't have them when they get up and go to school. And she said her job is to make sure to run through that wall. And then even the resources. Some of the resources that you two had back in your days aren't necessarily there now, especially with the proliferation of AAU, more folks moving to these organized games. And you don't see as many pickup games or outdoor leagues. The I guess outdoor basketball. Those.
Yep.
I'm not. Those.
I understand what you're saying.
I know what you're saying. I just can't remember the term for those courts. Those,
it's basically street ball.
Street ball.
Yeah.
Why did it?
Yeah.
How did I blank out on
that?
Yeah.
I don't really have, and this is just my total opinion. I think right now, this generation is more of a social media kind of generation where it's more focused on what the next picture is or what the next Snapchat is. And I think it's not the passion of and the desire to really fight and grind for a scholarship or really seeing that as an option. But one thing I love about Maya is she's trying to instill in them the family atmosphere here. Like they all got she wanted to make it a unified thing. If you look at the Edison team right now, they have all the same pair of shoes on. They just received those about a week and a half ago, which shows that they're a unified organization and a unified team. She wants to do that next step of having team outings, which like we spoke about before, going to a college basketball game together, showing them and letting them touch just a little piece of what they can have if they strive for it.
And she mentioned a lot of things in our discussion. We were on the phone for about 35 minutes, and entitlement is a big distraction now.
It is a very big distraction.
Not to say those kids are stuck up or conceited, but you mentioned the social media generation. You can do Snapchat, Twitter. You get a lot of things that can inflate your ego if you're not careful, and that's something you got to deal with now.
And I think that's definitely it. I think to myself all the time, even with myself, where would my career have been, or even Maya's career would have been with a YouTube or a Twitter? How many followers would you have had? But I still feel like overall we would have still fought day in and day out for what we really wanted. For us, that basketball was our scholarship. So right now, bouncing on the floor, go get it, retrieve it, and make something happen for yourself.
As you noticed, we are starting the second half, 19-19 our score. And it's not a very polished start, but
2 back-to-back turnovers by Trinity and Minneapolis Edison. I think we have to have somebody really distinguish themselves as someone that wants to step away and get a lead in this game.
Well, the top scorer of this game is Elisa Weber with 8 points, and then Anna Friends had 7. And as we noted, the Brilskis were missing at the start of this game, are on the bench now for the Trinity Tri-Hawks.
What I'm noticing is right now Trinity's running a read and react offense where they're kind of using a pass and cut and replace. And I think that's been effective, but they're not really seeing the opening of who's open when they actually make those cuts.
And the starters from the first half are back on the floor here. Jada Lewis in trouble. Weber goes cross court. And Edison will run another set. McNeil, traveling violation.
One thing I really noticed about Tiffany McNeil is her situation of the dynamic between her as a scorer and her as a facilitator. When she's scoring, she is one hard player to stop. But I think once she gets a few turnovers, she kind of drops her head, and I wonder if she realizes really how good she really can be.
That's for 2, but that's short, coming from Liz Olson, and she ends up getting her own rebound. And you and I know, long shots usually equals long caroms.
Correct. That was a really long pass right there. It was a situation where Edison could have probably got a steal right there, but just wasn't no hustle, which resulted in a three-pointer. If they would have just hustled a little bit and got that loose ball, 50-50 balls are really crucial in games like this.
Anna Friends knocks down the triple, as you noted. That puts her up to 10. And Trinity up by 3. Entry pass broken up. Reminiscent of the Gophers game with Indiana yesterday.
Yeah. I think right now what we're having a situation. Good steal right there.
And McNeil anticipates one-on-one, and the reach and foul is called on Grace Ennis, and that's tough because Ennis was closing in, and you bail her out with a foul effectively.
Correct. I definitely think that she showed good hustle there, but just kind of get yourself in a better position of being able to get in front to stop the ball instead of having to feel like you have to reach to go for that steal. Some kids don't even realize, and some players don't realize, everything is not always about getting a steal. Sometimes it's just about slowing them down where they're not able to get a shot.
Trinity with a chance to extend this. Liz Olson.
Good block right there by Sierra Morrow. I feel like that's about her 3rd or 4th block right now.
Unofficially, yeah, she's had a few rejections. McNeil almost loses control, goes to Vaughn, and Vaughn turns a nearly broken play into a pair. That might be the loudest you hear me today.
But I think right now we have the crowd that's been involved. The crowd has grown a little bit more, and I'm glad to see that. Great basket right there by number 11.
Grace Ennis. the engine of the team. It's her first year at the point guard position.
She's really showing a great deal of poise as their point guard, being able to get them into their sets and get them involved and not letting them pressure her or making her rush.
And on Trinity's end, they've led by 3, and we'll see if this continues throughout the rest of the season, but Pat Buchanan said, things are starting to click. The points will come. That's he's out. And Morrow, well, that was a couple of wild shots there in the paint. And that happens quite a bit.
We have a 5-on-4 situation where we see what Trinity can do with it and see if they can actually make something happen. But they didn't attack fast enough.
They may not have recognized it.
Correct. They still got off a good shot, good hustle right there. We got to have Minneapolis Edison hustling jump ball, but Edison has to get in there and secure those defensive rebounds.
Well, Brittany Price is going to come in. We have a jump ball scenario. Price is one of those 4 8th graders we spoke of, and again, not having Andrea Gray available with the concussion symptoms, that I'm sure complicates things for Edison, because she was their top scorer.
Yes, definitely. I think that one thing that you just noticed with the coach, Andre Gray, just letting Sierra Morrow know that she has to get in more of a defensive stance. When she stands straight up, they go right around. When she gets in a defensive stance, she gets those blocks, and she creates. Good drive right there, good pull-up. We'll call this an assist. Good pass, good pass. Great.
Morrow is playing the Plinko game. I think she was tired of seeing Weber get all those bounces.
All right.
I've never seen so many balls bounce around the rim and fall in as I have today.
We would call that shooter's touch in your own gym. Oh, good back cut right there.
I still prefer Plinko. You can make a little more money that way.
I think that she would love that opportunity.
Get
we got a little transition situation right here.
Brittany Price is tying her shoe, and here's another odd man situation for Trinity.
Coach Johnson tells her to hurry up.
Well, I guess she won't have to hurry up because Liz Olson traveled, and 2 odd man situations for Trinity, and they can't get much out of it.
I think about a situation when I was at Minneapolis North. I actually lost my shoe during one of our games, and I kind of just picked it up, and girl took a shot, and I tried to block her shot with my shoe. I'm like, you got to do what you got to do until you can get back into the play, and I made sure no matter what I had to do, I was going to get back in that play.
Foul on Trinity, 14-17 left. And that's happened. I was actually at a St. Catherine's game. Lachey Holt, she's been doing pretty well, lost her shoe and managed to get off an assist. And she said the only difference is a lack of grip.
Yeah, it's really slippery.
Yes, the hardwood is slippery without
and she's still tying her
shoes.
Hopefully she's set now.
The moral of the story, you don't want to play basketball without shoes.
Or untied shoes.
Or you might find yourself slipping.
Because that could have created a situation where, especially with them going on a defensive transition, losing one of their players is a situation where that could have been that was a 5-on-4 that Trinity just didn't take advantage of. Yes, they're doing that read and react offense where it's a pass and cut, filling into the open area.
Morrow may have gotten a piece of that, and it's picked up by Vaughn.
We got a 1-point game here, Mike. I think this is going to be a situation where it's going to come down to the wire.
It's been close throughout. Jada Lewis drawing the foul, and she'll shoot a pair. We mentioned Lewis and her resiliency in the first half. As far as her skill set on the floor, Maya says she's taking her game to another level, doing a much better job at drawing fouls, getting to the rim.
I think if she could use her speed a little bit more, we obviously know she's a track star. Being able to use her speed a little bit more, I think with her, being able to pair her speed with a little bit better ball handling experience moving forward in her career here, I think she's going to be a deadly player.
Well, she mentioned she was excited to see how many games they'd win, just to see how much they progress. And Edison won 7 games last year, so they seem to be on pace to hit that same mark. But
if you think about it, Minneapolis Edison had a really good program when they had Coach Williams here.
Charlita Williamson.
I mean, they had a lot of
Julianne Mitchell.
Correct. They had a really good roster. Had a young group there. A lot of their players ended up in different locations. A couple of them are at Cooper now. A couple of them are at other schools. Some of them have graduated. But even if you think about a name right now, a player that just scored her 2,000 point, Andrea Adams, actually played here at Minneapolis Edison in her 8th grade year, averaging 17 points a game.
As Tamara pontificated, we had a pair of 3-pointers, and we have another. It's a 3-point fest. And a friend's hitting one. We had Maddie Brilski and Tiffany McNeil all hit triples here in these last few minutes. And
see if we can keep it going.
29-26. We might get some offense after all. McNeil, that's going to be a carry. Lost control of the ball. I was there on Friday night actually for Andrea Adams crossing 2,000, and depending on how things turn, she could threaten 3,000 if she stays healthy.
Yeah, and I think that was interesting. Just think about the dynamic of if Andrea Adams actually stayed here and was actually in the Edison uniform, and how much more of a dynamic the program would be here with some of the players that are no longer here. We also had Unique Longs that was also a player here who also plays for Cooper now, who's doing a very, very good job there. I mean, that generation right there is more of the 11th graders that were here. So, I mean, Minneapolis Edison could still have success, but once you have a coach that leaves, some players don't stay, so it's all about rebuilding.
Well, Andrea Adams had a strong attachment to John Robinson, the coach at Como Park.
Yes,
yep.
Is that her godfather?
Spiritual uncle of sorts.
Yeah, I think it was like an uncle figure / goddad figure. So yeah,
that was understandable. And well, look what she's doing for Como Park. I mean, they're winning games because of her. Meanwhile, 3-pointers off the mark, and Edison really is having difficulty picking up on these high caroms that come from the long distance shots.
I think they're doing a good job of drawing and using their dribble to attack the basket. They're not just standing still. They're making Edison work. Right now, it looks like Edison is out of that 3-2 zone, and they're actually in a man-to-man matchup for the first time since I've been watching them play.
Oh, a good cut to the rim, but nothing doing for Trinity. And Shanice Vaughn maybe a little too aggressive there.
But I think also in that situation, your teammates have to let you know when that backside defense is coming behind you to give you that heads up, and I don't think that they did that for her. Good block right there. Great block.
Brittany Price swats the ball from Anderson, and Morrow with a follow-up through of her own. 2 blocks and 1 go for the Tommies.
Let's see if Edison can actually utilize on it, because right now they're getting a lot of good blocks. That's good. That's good. I think they're getting a lot of good blocks, a lot of good turnovers, but they're not transitioning them into points on the offensive end.
The Green Bay Packers know about that.
Hey, what did you think about that game? Great comeback by the Seattle Seahawks, but you know that's what I'm cheering for.
I had to watch, we'll talk a little bit about that because we have a timeout here with 11:28 left.
Because you know Russell Wilson is a Wisconsin graduate.
Right, NC State, but played his last year of college ball at Wisconsin and got a lot of flack. Well, a lot of the read option guys did, and he's won 1 Super Bowl, has a chance to make it 2, but of course I had to cover Minnesota and Indiana. Minnesota with another cardiac comeback.
But I think it was a great game. Good game by Carly Wagner. Some big baskets down the stretch. I think she finished with the last 9 of the maybe 11 points that they had.
8 points, I think it was.
Yes, and then she did a great job. Great freshman, transitioning into a player that's coming from high school and actually making that transition into college. Not all players do that.
Minnesota may lead the Big Ten Conference in heart attacks before the season is through, with all their fans have gone through, but that was a strange game. The Gophers, for most of the time, it seemed like they were playing a little recklessly.
I think they only led the last minute and 18 seconds from what I watched last night.
They led for about a total of a minute.
Yes, but sometimes that has to happen. You just got to stay resilient. You got to keep fighting, keep working hard, and never giving up. And that's another example of what they did. Right now, I think they're 16-3.
16-2 and 5-1 in conference play, and they moved up to number 21 in the polls today.
That is great, and that's really a recruiting resume builder for their university, of being able to jump into the polls and looking forward to getting some new recruits in, especially trying to keep some of these recruits from Minnesota in-house.
Now we got to work on your alma mater, which is Minnesota's rival.
Yes. I mean, we've had a couple of injuries. I mean, one of our top player actually tore her ACL as well, Michaela Johnson, and I had the opportunity to meet a lot of the girls when I went back to finish my degree. I actually sat by Michaela Johnson at graduation, so we got a chance to see, and I'm really devastated for her, but Wisconsin is really making some strides, and hopefully they have an opportunity where they get back to where we know we used to be.
Head coach Bobby Kielsey will hang on a second. Grace Ennis getting the layup inside. Head coach Bobby Kielsey was there for Andrea Adams and her 2,000 point. Adams getting a lot of looks.
And it was great because I actually got the chance and opportunity to be able to be there. Because I actually volunteered in the University of Wisconsin women's basketball office.
Oh, that would have been impressive. Well, Morrow's going to get 2. And, well, Edison, they're
great scrap rebound on the backside right there.
They're scrapping, and they're having some trouble getting field goals, but they're getting Trinity's foul count up, and that might help them get some free throws later on.
Exactly. But back to what you were talking about with Bobby Kelsey, actually, the funny thing is they didn't even have her in their database system at first. I was a volunteer in their office, and I asked them, do you know about a kid named Andrea Adams? They hadn't even heard of her, and I actually put her in their database system to get them the opportunity to see her, and I hope that she can get a good opportunity to land there.
Maya Johnson having a word with Elisa Weber. Sierra Morrow splits at the free throw line. That she's up to 8, but Edison down by 4 with 10:47.
So who do we got here? Number 10.
Her name is not on the roster.
She's got a lot of energy, no matter what the situation is.
Let's see if I can find out who that is.
Okay, let's see if we got who. Let's see who that is right there.
Is there a 10 listed?
No,
Shaylee Day. That's our guest. Shaylee Day. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but Shaylee Day.
Yeah, I would think that was her. She's only appeared in 2 games this season. I mean, she's averaging 2 points in 2 games.
Steal, no finish. Morrow's going to have about a lot of rebounds by the end of this one.
I would love to see Sierra Morrow actually get those rebounds and just attack and run the floor, you know.
And that's something that may come with time with a little more confidence. Well, she gets a great bounce pass feed from Vaughn and puts it in. And she's our first Edison player in double digits, and the lead is now 2, 31-29.
Yes, great pressure right there by Day on the ball, number 10. She's bringing a lot of energy. She might not be great three-pointer as well for Trinity.
Brilski puts down the tray. And the lead is back to 5.
Like you said before, I think free throws are going to play a big role if Edison can get into the bonus or even the double bonus sometime soon.
Vaughn bouncing again to Morrow. Trinity was ready, and Morrow lost control of it.
Just took her eyes off it for a second there, and a lot of players do that. No matter what level you're on, you think shoot before catch, and sometimes that happens.
Or you see an opening. Right, you see an opening, you get the pass, and you're ready to shoot the ball before you catch the pass.
Correct, and I think that's kind of what happened there. I think she was in a situation where she might be a little bit tired, was thinking more shoot, and then didn't even have the ball fully in her hands yet.
Well, Trinity just used up their last foul to give as Mary Ennis ran into the back of Tiffany McNeil. So, for the last 9:16 of this game, Trinity is in the penalty. One
thing I like about Maya Johnson as a coach, she really educates her players on the bench. She doesn't just let them sit there. She keeps them involved in the game. What she was just doing just now was, while the game was actually going on, she was actually educating the girls on her bench with different coaching points from what she sees on the floor, making sure that they're ready once she calls their name to go in the game. Not a lot of coaches do that.
And Maya actually got her start in coaching with Faith Johnson-Patterson, traveling violation on Vaughn. Shadowed Faith for some time at De La Salle before getting a job at Nebraska Kearney, where she spent several years in Division II. And
she actually got an opportunity to coach with Tara Starks, who was the one that took over the reins.
T.T. Starks?
Yes, T.T. Starks' mother, Tara Starks, who actually took the reins once Faith Johnson-Patterson ended up at De La Salle. Maya actually volunteered with Minneapolis North that season. They were actually possibly one shot away from going to the state tournament again that year. I think it was 2010. So she has some good coaching experience and on all levels.
Foul was on Edison, and
great pressure on the ball by Day. I feel like she has come in and really wreaked havoc and just really been on the ball, and I think that's what you're going to need down the stretch.
And trying to create that havoc presence, and that leads to the steal by McNeil.
Let's see if she can control herself, control her body to the basket.
Well, she weaves through the double team, but left her with no lane, and she intercepts the pass, floats it up, no good. Gets her own rebound.
Hey, way to stay with it on that. She didn't give up. She continued to fight for the ball, and that's what you like to see out of a young player.
And she's up to 11 points. It's sometimes grit that gets you past that hump. Well, and Trinity doing the same
we got
thing.
a rebound. I'm not sure if it's a fatigue thing right now with the Edison team, but I feel like it might be with them giving up those rebounds. There was 4 people in the paint, and still
4
Trinity
people
got
in the paint, but nobody bothered to move right.
Correct.
They all stayed in the middle.
Oh, step back 3 right here.
And that's something, again, when you're not used to the conditioning, and we noted that a lot of these players, when you work to change that culture, you got to get in shape for it, and that can be a process. That's a kick ball on Edison. So you can get to these hot starts, but sustaining them, at least for now, is difficult. Again, that might be something we see later on. Even those North boys last year, they had trouble sustaining leads. This year, if they're in front, it's not likely that they're coming back.
I definitely agree with you on that. I think what they learned is, like I said before, it all started with them in the offseason. And I think a lot of, great three-pointer by number 24. They really have come in and helped this team. I don't know. I'm sorry, but I wonder what the game would have looked like if they would have been here on time. Definitely.
This might be working out. This might be Buchanan's new strategy. Just have them come in later, maybe use them in the second half. And
secret weapon. I mean, they shouldn't be.
I suppose you have fresh legs because you didn't. You have fresh legs because you missed the first 5-10 minutes, but
they're showing and really stepping up for their team right now. And I also like their point guard. I think Grace Ennis is really leading her team, and you hear a lot of the people in the stands saying you have to actually deny number 11. And I think she's really been able to control and help them to keep this momentum. Right now, this is a good timeout by Maya Johnson, really trying to develop her girls and let them know that they have to get on those boards. And also, it's a good situation where she's getting them a little bit of a break.
7:47 left at Trinity with their largest lead here, 39-31. And as you've noted, fatigue could be a factor here. Trinity seems to have a little more energy with them right now than Edison.
Yes, and like I said before, we talked about it early in our telecast that the Trinity coach is definitely running his players in and out. He's giving them the breaks that they need. He's really keeping them fresh. And I think the situation right now is we have a lot of young players on the team, but that conditioning could play a big factor going down the stretch.
So Edison, let's see if they have one more run in them. They did lead early in this one. And Maya going all the way across half court.
But she has a point there. They actually had a mistake with the jump ball, and now we don't want to actually give up. And I'd rather her be in a situation where the refs make a call to either give her a technical, but I don't think she would have warranted one right there. She's right. They have to be on point with whose ball it is.
And that's not going to get it done for Edison.
Definitely not. They got to capitalize on that. Definitely have to capitalize on that. It looks like she's going into a man-to-man. They're normally in their token. They're normally in their traditional 3-2, but she wants them to get up and play pressure. Great defense by Day to create a turnover right there.
And McNeil gets control. There are some flashes with this team. McNeil top of the key. That's going to be short. And that's just a communication thing. You got to make sure if you're going to take a shot up there, someone's got to be down low to make the recovery.
Yeah, and I think right now, if you notice Coach Gray or Andre Gray on the bench wanted a tip on that ball. I kind of agree with them on that. I feel like it might have been a little bit of a tip. I've never just seen her air ball. But at the same token, you have to be able to be ready to go in for those rebounds, regardless when you take that shot or not. Great pressure right here, but I love the pressure that Day is putting on the ball. It might be a fatigue thing once again with her, but I think we have to be understanding that with this ball movement that they got going on right now, this offense is really hard to stop.
And another Edison steal. I'll give them this. They're scrappy in the passing lanes today. Day pulls up, and that's off the mark, and the rebound going to Anna Mashad, and Edison just having some difficulties getting the shots to fall. On the line, officials saw that, and an offensive rebound by Ennis. Another three for Brilski. That would have been a dagger had that gone in.
Yeah,
yes. And over the back foul on Price.
Their time, really working the ball around and get it to the open person. They're not rushing anything, and I think that's their strategy, to be able to work the clock down. They got an 8-point lead right now. Over the back right there on number 32. Brittany Price, but I think what we need to see a little bit more from Edison is forcing the issue. Yep, block right there by Stav.
Two quick fouls on the Tommies, and we're going to see Jada Lewis go back in. And regardless of the score, and we noted this earlier, Maya Johnson is working this team to instill the idea of not playing to the scoreboard.
And that's what I love about her coaching style. It's a situation where when you start focusing on the scoreboard, you stop playing. And I think right now it's a situation where they've been able to create a situation where it was just 6-1 fouls. Now Minneapolis Edison is starting to get tired. More fouls are becoming, and they still have not gotten in the bonus, which I hope that they do soon.
They're getting steals, though, and Price, that's going to be short. That was last touch by Trinity. And at this stage of development, this is the first year. Who knows how long this will go. At this point, if you're Edison, you really can't worry about the scoreboard because understanding the situation, you're taking a lot of kids who, as we mentioned, didn't have a role model figure.
Yeah, and I think they do now. And I think one thing that they realize is Maya is going to be tough on them because she believes in them. But some people don't. Some people aren't used to that. They're not used to somebody really thinking of them as athletes and players. They've had a lot of people that have given up on them in the past, and Maya doesn't want them to feel that way.
Edison forcing a lot of steals. I guess this is akin to the Minnesota-Indiana game where Minnesota got defensive stops, and it took them almost the entire length of regulation to finally come through.
They have to create a situation where they are taking steals and turnovers and creating and generating offense. Right now, another turnover. Let's see if they actually.
Olsen gets the steal and turns it over almost immediately. As you noted, it's the points off turnovers that have hurt Edison today in this matchup. Trinity. Well, McNeil, who tried to head back and the pass wasn't ready for. Another three is off the mark.
There's another situation where you have 3 Edison girls inside the paint,
Lewis,
and you don't have anybody rebounding.
Who wants the ball? We finally get it under control, but Price is not going to stay in control.
Right now you're seeing the youth of Edison.
She lost her balance, and she couldn't stop herself to maintain it.
Yeah, but I really think right now you're seeing the youth of Edison. You have a lot of 8th graders in the game right now. We have an 8th grader coming in for an 8th grader. We have 2 8th graders on the floor. I think we have a 9th grader, a junior, and a 10th grader. There's a lot of youth here, and if they can start understanding their bodies and what they have going on, they have a better chance.
A lot of youth in basketball, not necessarily their first choice. High, low, and the finish by Mary Ennis for her first field goal. Tri-Hawks up by 10.
The Tommies really need a basket right here. Let's see if Sierra Morrow can get something going.
Well,
that's how they get started. That's how they get started. Go into your big girl, see her inside. She goes to work. She's giving them her call right now. She wants them to pick up full.
You're hearing her
court.
say full court, all out, let's go. Edison is in the bonus.
Let's see if they can take some. Once you see if it's a make or a miss, she wants them up. We have a new player in the game right here, number 13. We have Chantel Fleming, who's just now entered the game, only playing in her 4th game, plays and has actually averaging about 2.8 in her 4 games.
So Morrow is still raw. I mean, as an 8th grade, not many 8th graders are polished, as we said before in this game, but she's a player that I'm curious to see how she develops. And Ayanna Anderson commits the traveling violation, but Sierra Morrow, she's a player that you may not see it now, but I think has a lot of potential as Maya Johnson's going to call timeout here with 4:57 left.
Yeah, but if you look at her stat line, you don't really see a lot right now. I mean, in the situation right now, she's averaging 4.9 points, 8 rebounds per game, one rebound, 1 actual block per game, which is really, really good for an actual 8th grader. So I do agree with you and see where her development is even over this summertime. And Maya actually talked to me about trying to get her involved in some AAU, and I think most players don't realize AAU and summer ball is where you really get your most development at.
Well, that would seem to be at odds with what LeBron James and Kobe Bryant have said about AAU.
Exactly. But if you think about the dynamic of AAU for men and AAU for girls, what people don't realize is AAU is when college coaches really get a chance to see you play, see your development, because they're in season when you're in your high school season. So they're not just able to come and travel to actually see you unless you're on their radar. So I think AAU is a positive, but if it's used in the right way.
Right, and I think they were talking more about men's play in AAU ball, and you get some exceptions. The Howard Poley program and the EYBL team.
Yes.
They produced a lot of talent, but I mean, you're right. It's the AAU play where a lot of coaches see you, and I think some coaches are going to see, well, free throws coming. And you mentioned the youth and the energy. Trinity just seems to have more of it.
More of it. Coaches running, in and out. And I definitely believe that right now, Maya's right now looking down her bench to see where her spark is going to come from. I think they just need that one spark, and they're going to be able to take off.
And if it doesn't come in this game, there's still many games left in this season to find it, as Maddie Brilski missing the front end. And Maddie Brilski hasn't had too many shots on the free throw line. I want to see if we can get a look at Edison's schedule, just because Maddie Brilski, or Marcy, I should say, getting the back end of it. They go to Minnesota Transitions tomorrow.
MTS, correct.
They play South on Thursday, and that's going to be, well, they have a rising star in Morgan Hill. They have some winnable games. They have another game with Mounds Park Academy later in the season.
They have a really, really tough one in Maranatha. I mean, Maranatha's in their region, and I think that's going to be the team to beat coming down, which they have been pretty much a powerhouse in the 1A or the 4A region. So I think that's going to be a situation where it'll be able to be something that they gauge, I mean, for moving forward.
And then Breck on February 17th. There's some winnable games in this lineup as the scoreboard goes out again.
I wonder if it has an electronic, like, not active type of thing. Oh, there we go. There we go.
We're going to see Chantel Fleming take a couple of shots here. Fleming, a sophomore. Or at least a 1-of-1.
Yes, once again, we have another youthful player. Is that do we have a player that fouled out?
It looks that way.
Yes.
Number 33, Mary Ennis, who fouls out with just 2 points. But Trinity possessing the momentum right now.
Question, do we have, is Grace Ennis and you think Mary Ennis related and are sisters?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, great.
Fleming can't make the free throw, though. And
Grace Ennis looking like she wants to push a little bit too fast.
And the steal by number 10, Chalet Day. And what do we have here? Oh, looks like a deflection off of Trinity, so Edison will hang on to it. We're seeing number 22, Kia Brunner. Daleen Stave goes to the bench. 4:40 left.
Oh,
Brunner telegraphed that pass almost too easily.
oh. That could have been I feel like the call could have went anyway. I think it was a little bit of a travel there, but at the same token, I think overall that was a situation where they had, you know, her attacking the basket.
Anderson. Morrow with another rejection. This will eat up more time, though, and a 3 is too high from number 15, Anna Friends. Friends is considered a great shooter, though, and we've seen Trinity not afraid at all to take a few looks from three-point range. Morrow, that was a clean block. There was contact, but no foul. Sierra Morrow.
I would say she has about 6 to 7 blocks today on this game.
She's been an impressive force. That was deflected. Vaughn gets control. Edison really needs to settle themselves down.
Yes, and
they get in these. I've noticed when they get in adverse situations or panic mode, they start forcing, and it leads to another turnover. Marcy Brilski. Trinity with more time to eat up here. Liz Olson can't get the floater. And Edison will try again.
Yes, I think right now they need to have a sense of urgency right here. I know we don't want them to play too fast because I don't think they've really proven that they can play fast.
And Vaughn just loses her footing.
Which some would actually in the stands would call a trip. But like I said before, is that going to transition into a situation where we get a basket? Now Edison needs to score here. This is an important possession for them. Let's see what they do.
And this is where that youth you mentioned seems to show up. You know, you're not used to these situations, and you start hustling perhaps a little too fast.
Timeout here from Trinity.
As you noted, Edison, I'm sure, would like to score. But at the same time, you can't be in such a hurry to do it that you forget how you got there.
Say that again. I was so focused on seeing the dynamic of no, not even that. I was so focused on seeing the interaction between Maya Johnson and her players, educating right now, because sometimes the game is really about the educational piece of it. They got 3 minutes here. She's got them looking and making them understand and letting them know that they still have time to come back in this game. So I kind of wanted to see how they interacted to her. We have a ghost in the building, I think. I think it's a ghost in here, and it wants us.
It is Martin Luther King Day.
Yes, I mean, I don't know if
I don't know.
It's the
I don't
ghost
think he
of
ever,
MLK or what.
Did he ever visit Minnesota in his
Maybe
travels?
he wants to have equality with no clock.
No clock. No clock. I was gonna say the first goal that Maya Johnson set with this Edison team was getting everyone to buy in. They've gotten out of that phase. Now it's how do you attain? How do you ascend? And a bailout foul.
I definitely think that was. Oh, coach called a timeout.
Okay.
Trinity bailed him out with a
Okay,
timeout.
I thought it was a timeout, or I thought the foul was called, but no, a timeout
Nope.
because Trinity was facing
Yep, they
a 10-second
overruled it. They
violation.
actually conversed about it. One ref had a foul and one ref had a actual timeout, which the timeout preceded the actual foul call.
Well, and that's big for Edison because that would have put them in the penalty with 3:04 left.
Correct. And one thing that most people didn't notice is the Trinity player was actually moving on the baseline when Minneapolis Edison hadn't even scored. So I think the situation is that we have a situation where they didn't notice it and they played on, but there could have been either a 10-second call there or even a foul.
A tough scenario, and indeed, and of course, when you started in high school, you had a stronger program with North, and so you didn't really have to build from the ground up, as the saying goes.
I think
you mentioned off-season is going to be a big thing. Where else do you? What other places can you see Edison growing?
I definitely can see them growing in a situation of trying to keep the core group of girls that they have together, working together. Whether that be the Edison organization, Brett McNeil, who is the athletic director here, opening the building up for the girls, for them to get in here during the summer to work together as a team. Obviously, some of them will go to individual AAU programs and play individually, but I think the more time they can spend together as a team in the summer and working together in the summer is going to be what is important for them to be successful in moving forward.
I'm not sure about that foul, but I don't wear the stripes.
Yeah, but I also believe that we have a situation where we have someone that should have been more of a low defensive stance, and I think that was one of the biggest things for me as a coach, that you want to get your kids down in the defensive stand instead of standing straight up.
Liz Olson called the spark off the bench by Patrick Buchanan, averaging 3.8 per game.
Yeah, you can't have that type of stuff happen. You have to push back. You have to box out. There's no situation why a Trinity player should be able to rebound over 2 or 3 Tommy players in the paint.
Chantel Fleming, she's ready to play.
She was ready to attack it, and she was like, oh, man.
No, it's 2 free throws. And a Mashad splits.
Yeah, once again, another offensive rebound.
Morrow
we have
gets
to get
it.
in a situation.
Jump ball.
Jump ball.
Trinity with the arrow. You can't fault Morrow's effort. She just tipped it to a Trinity player.
Yes, but once again, you have to have the inside position and not just tip. You have to get up. She's the tallest player right now in the game. She has to get off the ground and jump and grab those rebounds.
I'm curious what kind of discussion you and Maya will have when she has a chance to see this game, considering your commentary. I mean, it's been very insightful, but
yeah.
Knowing you two and how close you two, I'm not sure how you two met, but
yeah.
It's
I think it's interesting. Most people don't, like I said before, most people will see a situation where even Maya, like me, I coach at Bloomington Jefferson right now as the 10th grade head coach and varsity assistant, that I think with us is a situation where she reached out to me, say for instance, for her Minneapolis North game, asking me for some pointers and if I knew of any of the players. And I actually got to give her a nice scouting report on Minneapolis North before her game. So we talk a lot. We are able to interact. And I've known Maya, like I said, since she was about 12 years old, in a situation where we were both in the same feeder program.
Morrow with the rebound.
Yeah, they got to attack that ball. They got to attack that ball. They got to get the ball up the floor.
And Maya expressing as such from the bench. And Day, that was a little tough. You're right at that wall, and this is a learning experience. This whole season has been for the Tommies.
I think it is, but like I said, they're not that bad of a team. I think that they just have that right now they're playing off of raw talent instead of it being actual fundamental talent that I think Maya's trying to instill in them, which will be crucial moving forward. Let's see what she can do right here.
Well, the big thing, that was nearly a carrying, whoops.
But I like what Fleming did right there. She actually attacked the basket. She's getting on the floor. She's actually trying to create some type of energy for her team.
And the biggest step that I've seen from this game out of Edison is just learning to calm themselves down.
Correct.
McNeil missing the three-pointer, and then the over-the-back foul. And what I mean by calming down is you're in this situation and they start getting into hurry-up mode. Yes, you want to score, but you still need to run your plays, run your sets, because that is how you create the scoring opportunities. You don't want to force shots and have those contested looks and then just give Trinity more time here.
But if you look at the dynamic of how this game started, it was a good 11-4. We had the two sisters that actually rejoined the team, who came and created a spark. But it was still that back and forth. We had a 19-19 game at halftime. But I think what ended up happening is that youth played a crucial role in why this game is now 44-32.
Now 45-32, Anna Friends making both free throws.
What are the free throws looking like as far as makes and misses for Trinity? Because I feel like they've really gotten to the line in this second half.
Attempts, they've certainly have outperformed Edison in, and makes have been kind of tough, although Trinity has made a few more as of late.
Yeah, correct.
And as I said, the biggest thing for Edison at this point, and it's tough to do, I mean, we can say that up in the booth, but as a player, your instincts, sometimes it takes a while to alter those instincts, as Vaughn takes a tumble after a collision from Olsen. And Olsen makes sure she's all right.
Which is great sportsmanship on Olsen's part. Sometimes some players won't even come up to you and even ask. And I think that was a good sportsmanship on her part. Let's see if Shanice can actually get those two free throws right here.
Edison, once they learn to control themselves and just play within their system, that you can still work your way back without having to abandon your philosophy. Again, just not resorting to the hurry up as a panic mode.
Correct. I think that is a great point, and I think that's what their next step will be. Great free throw right there. This is a big shot is right here, because if they get this actual second free throw, there'll be an opportunity for them to actually set their trap and actually set their press.
And this is a team that won't be experiencing too much winning, at least this year, as they work their way up. But with players like Moore in particular, and when they get Gray back, we have to note that absence.
Oh, for sure. I mean, when dealing with
and Weber had a strong start to this one.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But you have to be really, really careful with concussions, especially with the young players. I think that's the big crucial element when it comes to a concussion, not forcing a player back too fast. And I like what they're doing with her. She's young. I think she's only in 8th grade. So I think that's a good move on their part to let her fully recover, especially with Dad being on the bench as well as an assistant coach.
Well, if there's anyone who could determine whether or not she's ready, it's her dad.
Yeah, and I think he's doing a great job of putting her best, being all about the best interest of her and looking to the future and not just right now.
Right, because as an 8th grader, that you have a lot of time ahead, and that's where I want to see where this team is in a year or two from now. Where, as you noted, hopefully they can get together in the summer and get through an AAU season or get through some drills, camps, and really pick up on the fundamentals that perhaps other coaches haven't spent the time to instruct them on.
Exactly, and I think what it'll end up turning out to be is they've had a couple of those games where it's been exciting to actually be in, and I noticed, like when I watched them play against Minneapolis Southwest, they were in the game until about the end of the second half, which fatigue and youth kind of took in a back for them. They played against Minneapolis North recently, where they were in the game all the way down until like maybe the last 5 or 6 minutes. So I think right now they're proving that they were in this game as well, but that last 5 or 6 minutes is where their dead part was.
Even that first game with Henry, the first game of the year.
And like you said, it comes down to that last 5 or 6 minutes of how they transition themselves to be able to slow themselves down, be more patient, and be able to handle pressure going down the stretch.
And conversely, this is a situation.
Do we have another disqualification here?
It's of little consequence for Trinity. It looks like it's Anna Mashad. And players get 30 seconds. And
I think the coach is trying to educate him, trying to figure out who he wants to be the next one to go in. He comes off the bench with number...
Ayanna Anderson, 35. Yes. And some other goals that Maya mentioned, we've talked about her on-court objectives. You know, she at some point wants to get all of her kids on the honor roll and just understand that what you do
in the classroom
can affect you. Yes, in the classroom, on the floor, even just your attitude, your demeanor.
And I think that's another thing that the athletic director here, Brett McNeil, is also trying to preach, that you're a student first, athlete second. So if you have a situation where you have the administration coming to you basically saying, hey, I got one of your athletes in the hallway, he'll come back to you and say, no, you have a student in the hallway. That's the big crucial thing that they're trying to invest in them, is that you don't get to hit this court without that piece of being a student as well.
Well, and there is talent. We did talk about Lewis and her sister winning the Class A state meet by themselves, and that included a disqualification in one of the relay events because of a mishap in a baton exchange.
Oh, wow.
And they but the two in the sprint events, they finished high enough that they scored enough points on their own to give Edison the team title.
Wow, and I'm really interested to see where they're gonna and how they're gonna move forward in the future with having a situation where they've already seen some success with a state championship and kind of going from there.
Maya's still coaching to the very end.
And that's very, very important. That's very important. What I think she was trying to see there is a travel on number 35, Anderson, right here on the wing, where she felt like they missed as a call, which resulted in another foul on Shanice Vaughn.
I guess for you, I don't know if you were ever a part of a rebuilding program per se, but what do you think is the most challenging aspect of it, and how do you handle that where you don't let the record or the scores bother you?
Yeah, well, from what most people don't realize is I actually built a high school program from scratch when I was at Prairie Seeds Academy. So I think the biggest challenge is getting the pieces there, getting a situation where you have the trust of the players, the trust of your parents. I mean, you're not really dealing with like a situation where with bigger schools you got booster clubs and a lot of funds aren't there, resources aren't there. So just being able to work with what you have until you can build up. And for me, I just happen to have a situation where I built a great team and a good team to where we had some success to where we actually did make it to the region championship. So they're not out of the water yet. They just have to continue to grow.
Anna Friends getting the last 2 free throws for Trinity, and that wraps up our scoring. She finishes with 17, and Trinity moves to 8-9 on the year with a 47-34 win over Edison. I guess your observations, getting a chance to see Maya Johnson in action, and for Trinity, taking that next step. Again, not a high-scoring team, but making those steps to click.
Yeah, I definitely think right now with the situation, it came down to that last 5 or 6 minutes of fatigue on the Minneapolis Edison side and a little bit more polished teamwork game with the Trinity team. I think they just worked off of some of those scrappy plays that were on the rebounds. They were inside the paint. They were picking up on those loose balls. Edison actually got Trinity to turn the ball over a lot, but didn't create the actual opportunity for them to score on the offensive end.
And I think that's going to be the key as we move forward, is those points off turnovers. And again, this is a gradual process.
Mm-hmm.
It can be frustrating, it's hard, it can be painful sometimes, but as we've said before, this is a team that I'd like to see in a year or 2 from now to see where they progress.
The where are they now type of segment.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because this is a team that you really have to follow them in a where are they now fashion, because you can't really judge them on what they do this year. It's got to be, you're going to see the fruits of their labor in future seasons.
And I definitely agree with that. And I think with somebody like Maya, who has a situation where, like you said, you don't look at the wins and losses of the team, but just looking at the first game that I actually seen them play and just being able to talk to some of the players over the summertime of how they feel with the past coach of feeling like they didn't have coaches that really believed in them. That's the first step, is getting players to believe that you believe in them, and then everything else will fall into place from there.
Well, that wraps up a busy weekend of basketball for me, and we'll be back at it next weekend with Cretin and Johnson. Should be a big game in the boys' side, and I know you'll have you've got your high school team and your Flame team coming up, so it's going to be a busy time for you.
Yes, I'm actually just took on a semi-pro coaching job as well as GM job with the Minnesota Flame. We also have our Lady Flame that'll be starting pretty soon with our March 1st tryout. But I'm excited. We got our first game this Saturday against the Minnesota Rangers. So if anybody can come out. It starts at 4:00 p.m. at North Hennepin. So I'm excited about it.
We'll make a note in the calendar, but thanks for watching our holiday coverage of high school basketball. And for Tomorrow More, I'm Mike Peden. We'll see you next time.